going to become God. Now, the media picks that up and says, Alex Jones says the elite are going to become God. No, that's not what I say in Endgame Blueprint for Global Enslavement. That's not what I say on the show. The elite, and I give sources where they say they believe they're going to merge with machines and that is the new evolutionary jump that's going to happen, and they're going to set up their planetary system and basically get rid of the population before we ever even get to that point. Now, whether they're going to carry that out or not, I don't know, but they've already been carrying out the precursors to it. And so, yeah, that's a scary thing, but it's real. And that's what we're facing as a society. Katherine, if you're just joining us, Dr. Katherine Albrecht, researcher, author into these subjects. From your research, what makes the globalists tick? What type of world are they trying to build? I mean, Google says they want to own the internet. They want to have over-the-horizon predictive powers with the computers to be able to tell mass events before they take place. It's a surveillance system where they can tell where mass movements are going to be able to head them off. But it's still humans at the end of the day that are in control of this, and humans that are willing to dominate and break laws. And so we have incredible power in the hands of very sadistic, wicked people. I mean, the final equation from your research, what is the New World Order? What is their end game? And what are some of the other cutting-edge developments that you're watching?
You know, you really pegged it, because we all know the old phrase, knowledge is power. And this is about power. We also know Lord Acton's phrase, power corrupts absolutely. And what we're now coming to a point, and you ask what drives these people, I think it is an unbridled lust for the ultimate form of power, which is the ability to decide who lives and who dies, the ability to decide who can procreate or who can live forever, the ability to decide which trees fall in which forest, or where a frog jumps, or everything else. Because in my research, I mean, you've got the IBM planetary skin, you've got them putting sensors in oceans, you've got them putting sensors in forests, into trees. I ran across a document by a big international forestry organization that actually came up with some statistics to figure out what it would cost to put an RFID microchip, spy chip in every single sapling, every single tree on planet Earth. You know, the planet is getting small enough now that they're actually envisioning the ability to identify every single last animal and microchip them all. So it's really, you know, what would inspire someone to want to do that? And the only thing that I can think that would inspire someone to want to do that is if they're kind of tapping into a darker desire, which gets us onto the spiritual realm, which is the desire to be completely and totally in control, like God. And, you know, you can go all the way back to the Garden of Eden, and, of course, the conversation that occurred there between Satan and Adam and Eve, that conversation, you know, the foundation of Western civilization, trace it all the way back to its beginning, and that conversation was all about power. You know, the knowledge of good and evil, you will become like gods. Just take a bite out of this apple. And, by the way, let me point out that all you listeners out there who have Apple iPads and iPhones and laptop computers, you are carrying around the visual representation of that symbol all day long. You've got the apple with a bite out of it. That represents a deal that was struck when the offer was made. Hey, listen, I will make you like gods. You will have the power of God. And, of course, the reality is the only power from God is from God. You know, when God gives you power, that's real power. When God has power, that's real power. But when you get into this technological, twisted, dark stuff, it always, always, always comes with a price. And, in fact, we opened Spy Chips with a quote by C.P. Snow from the New York Times. This is back in the 1970s. And he said, technology is a queer gift. It gives you great gifts with one hand and stabs you in the back with the other. And I can think of no technology. I've been reading all these books about the Luddites and about the 1800s and the implementation of all these technologies and where they all got their start. And all of them have come with this huge downside. And ultimately, that downside is going to be the destruction of our entire planet. Look what's they will keep moving the bar, and that's what's happening. You keep moving the bar further and further out as to what's acceptable, what's tolerable, what we'll put up with. And this is one of the things that I said to Bob Unruh when he interviewed me from WorldNet Daily. He said, listen, they're not going going to come one day with tanks and guns, and maybe they will, but believe me, it's not going to happen until people are really softened up for it, and say, hey, get a microchip. It's going to be little by little, and you're going to have, kids 15, 18 years old going, cool, you mean if I have a microchip implant, then I can just ask questions and my Google goggles will just give... I talk about on my radio show a lot, Alex, that there's an 80% cutoff, that once you've got 80% of the population doing anything, fill in the blank, whatever it is, then you can force the other 20% to get on board. And I'm already seeing this with the toll transponders, those little things people put, the fast pass and easy pass things they put in their windshield to go through the tolls. I won't use one. I don't use one. I never will use one. I will take surface streets before I'll use one of those things because that's an RFID-based spy chip tracking device in your car. However, now that they've got 80% of people on board in many communities around the country, now they're moving to make those mandatory where you can't even pay cash. There's no option of paying cash. Same thing is true with all of these different technologies. Once 80% of people have smartphones, there's going to be a requirement. Just like a Social Security number, you can't get a job without one. So all the holdouts back in the 30s, 40s, 50s who said, oh, that's the mark of the beast, they all had to sign up, or they died off, and then their kids signed up. Same thing is going to happen with the cashless society. Same thing is going to happen with near-field communication cell phone payments. And ultimately, they're pushing for that same thing to happen with the implants. So I would look for the implants. We were out there protesting. I did a prayer vigil and a march against the chipping of the Alzheimer's patients in Florida. If people want to go to antichips.com, they can see not only the photos of that event, but they can also see, it's like a 50-page document, an academic document that I wrote about those microchips causing cancer in laboratory animals. So there's also, I think, like a 100-page or 100-question FAQ, antichips.com. People can check it out and learn more about these implants. But, the whole move of these implants, there are a couple of stupid companies like the Verichip Corporation, with all its various names, that come out and say, oh, well, we want to sell this as a product. I don't think it's going to happen that way. People don't want an ID microchip. But if you turn around and instead say, you'll be able to listen to music and access Facebook and get your email through this little implant, you're going to have a stampede of people wanting to do it. Because and I think a part of it, Alex, and I know you and I are doing all we can, but our generation and the folks out there listening to this show, we are not doing a very good job reaching out to young people and helping them understand why this stuff matters. And we are not Madison Avenue. They are getting their information from the schools, which is the government, 12,000 hours of seat time. Actually, it's 14,000 hours of seat time. So they've got the government doing all of this forming. They've got television, which is all the folks we were just talking about, giving you all this in advance and doing the behavioral placements. And then we've got Madison Avenue, which has a definite interest in our kids not caring about privacy because they know the more they know about us, the more they can get us to part with our money. And so all of these forces and all of these informational sources are promoting this stuff. And we, who in past eras, parents, grandparents, the people in your community, we are not having an influence on young people.
Well, there is no community. All there is television.
That's where I'm drawing the line because I know that that's going to be near-field communication that is one step away from the implant. It's those phones, and they're already a privacy disaster. So what I take solace in, though, Alex, when I think about that is I always think about what it says in the Bible, what you intended for evil, I have turned to good. So there is nothing out there that Satan can throw at us, that these technological, monsters who want this transhumanism, there's nothing that they can throw at us that if you maintain your integrity and stay within your own bounds, and I would encourage everybody, draw those boundaries now because they're going to be really working on your psyche to try to get you to change them. Draw your boundaries now, figure out where they are, and then work within that. I've got a very good friend who shares a lot of these views. She just got an Apple computer because she had to for work. And she says, well, if I'm going to be logging onto Facebook, if I'm going to be logging onto these places for my work to convey these important privacy notions and to convey this important stuff, I'm going to do it with my eyes open, fully aware, and also not become addicted. They call it nomophobia, I think is the name of it. It's cell phone addiction. And they found that over 50% of people are suffering from cell phone.
I mean, this is really, really coming to a head.
You know, I had somebody 28 years old write into me through my radio show and say, I went back to college. I'm in with a bunch of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And by the way, present company excluded, all you young people listening to Alex, amen to you and thumbs up. But, you know, he was writing that you can't even carry on a conversation with these people. They're shifting. Their eyes are shifting around. They're moving from foot to foot. They can't hear the end of a statement.
They have no attention span. They've been programmed down. I mean, we know it. We're thinking they're trendy, and there's no one even home now.
You know, it is the most disturbing thing. And so what do we do? Well, first of all, I think it is okay to put your foot in the water and use some of these technologies. I do. I'm not going to get a microchip implant. They will have to shoot me before I will ever do that. Or if you believe what the Bible has to say about that, they will behead the people who will refuse to ultimately sign up for whatever form the mark of the beast takes. So I've got my lines that I've drawn. I pay for all my payments in cash. I do not use a credit card. I can count on my fingers the number of times I've used a credit card in the last 10 years.
We've got to keep cash alive.
We have to. We have to. But, you know, but again, I was thinking about this. The guy driving down Main Street in the 1920s in his mule cart, you know, at some point, that guy's going to get old and die, and then everybody drives a car. Or the people who said no to the telephones, who thought it was impersonal. You know, the Amish are fascinating to me because they've actually said no and let all of the freeway of technology race around them, and they're still on their mules without their phones. So,
well, it's all of it's the frequency pollution.
And, you know, I was reading my Bible recently, and it refers to Satan as the prince of the air. And, you know, that really hit me. I was like, okay, so I've got a light outside my studio here that says on the air. And, you know, we're broadcasting out through the air. There's air all around us that is absolutely filled with communication. And fortunately, in our case, you know, we're communicating good stuff. But a lot of what that's floating around is impacting people's bodies. We've got radio waves. We had television waves up until recently. We've got all of this wireless, Wi-Fi, RFID, all this stuff coming through the air.
But we can't see it, and that's where the globalists always come at you, in the food, in the water, in the hidden tech inside your iPhone. Everything is hidden. That's what a cult means, is hidden, and they are the masters of the hidden world, and they've built this whole hidden world around us, and now they told us, oh, that stuff doesn't exist, children, but now as they phase it out, they go, you know what, it did exist.
And, you know, and this is why this, just to tie this back to the nanotech thing and also to some of the other stuff we've been talking about, if they come up with this, if DARPA actually gets proposals on this and can pull it off, just a heads up for people, 12 months out, they want a safety demonstration in animals. By 42 months out, they actually want to demonstrate this nano platform tracking sensor in a large animal with 5 analyte detection. So a large animal, what are we talking, like a dog, a moose, a cow? I don't know. But 42 months out, they want that. At what point can they just inject this into us and we don't even know it's there?
I got news for you. I know military that have taken chips. And I have, well, I'm not going to get it. I've had family that was told they were getting chips, and now they won't talk about it. We'll be right back. For a long time, you've heard me talk about building your own food supply. All right, final segment in this hour. We were mentioning the nanotech. I thought I'd give you a source on that. Chicago Tribune, MSNBC, and others. FDA says nanotech may need extra safety test. And the FDA is run by Monsanto, eugenicists, the globalist. I mean, it'll just make your head spin when you look at it. And they admit, oh, hundreds of food products and other things, they have nanotech in them. And yeah, it goes through the blood-brain barrier. These little nanotechs are in your brain. And then we'll just see neurological disorders, cancer, everything off the charts. It's getting, I mean, the numbers of pediatric cancers, diabetes, neurological disorders, breast cancer. We lead the world in that. It's all off the chart. And it's a tiny group of globalists who, A, could care less, but B, also like seeing people sick and dying, who are running this. And 99% of us plus need to understand that and get together and say, we are aware of your scientific dictatorship. We are aware of what you're trying to do, because they're not in full control yet. And exposure can bring them down. Catherine, in closing. But
we love you, and we know that, you know, you are probably more than anybody else out there the single voice who gets it, who understands the importance of this stuff, and who understands why we do not want to be in.
God bless you, and I'm flattered. We'll talk soon.
God bless you. Thank you.